Hello everyone, welcome to Neso Academy. In the previous lectures, we completed data objects and data types. And while writing examples for all these, we continuously used names like student, data, count, A, B, memory, etc. And these names are called identifiers. Now, we all know what are identifiers. Identifiers are user-defined names which are used to identify specific elements inside a VHDL code. Examples: entity names, signal names, architecture names, etc. So, let me ask you something. Can we give any name we want in VHDL? No, because in VHDL, identifier must follow some specific naming rules. And today's lecture is all about identifier naming rules. And in this lecture, we will understand identifier naming rules. So, let's start the lecture with the very first rule, which says identifier's name should contain only alphabets, numbers, and underscores. That is, only alphabets, numbers, and underscores are allowed to create any identifier name. Example: this name, data, only contains letters. So, it is valid because it follows the first rule. The second example, sum 2. It contains letters and a number. It is also following the first rule. Therefore, it is a valid example. Let's see the third example, clock underscore 1. Now, as per the first rule, which says identifier should contain alphabets, numbers, and underscores. Therefore, these three examples are valid. Let's see few more examples. In this example, data hyphen 1. It contains letters, a number, and a hyphen. Now, as per the first rule, hyphen is not included in any identifier name. Therefore, this data hyphen 1 is invalid. Now, the second example, some dollar value, which contains letters and a special symbol. Now, special symbols are not allowed to create identifier name. Therefore, this example is also invalid. Let's see the last example, clock space 2. It contains letters and a number. Now, as per the first rule, it contains alphabets and a number. So, is it valid? No, because we can clearly see extra space is there and space is not included in the first rule. So, this example is also invalid. Therefore, we use underscore instead of space to make the examples more readable. So far, I hope you understand why these examples are invalid and these examples are valid. Let's see the second rule, which says the first character must be a letter. Means an identifier's name should start with an alphabet. Let's understand this using few examples. Now, in this example, the first one is starting with a letter A1. The second example is also starting with a letter D, which is data underscore bus. Therefore, as per the second rule, these examples are valid. Let's see few more examples. 1. Data. Now, as per the first rule, it contains a number and letters. So, is it valid? No, because as per the second rule, which says first character must be a letter. And here we can clearly see that the first character is a number. Hence, this example is invalid. So what about this example? Underscore signal. It is not starting with an alphabet. Therefore, this example is also invalid. So, I hope you understand the first two rules, where first rule says identifier's name should contain only alphabets, numbers and underscores, while the second rule says the first character must be a letter. Hence, these examples are invalid and these examples are valid. Let's see the third rule, which states the last character cannot be an underscore. Means an identifier name should not end with an underscore. So, underscores are allowed but not at the end. Let's understand this using few examples. Now, in this name, data underscore 1, we can clearly see this underscore is present but not at the end. And as per the third rule, this name is valid. So, what about this example? S underscore U M. Is this name valid? Yes, because there is no underscore at the end. Hence, this name is valid. Let's see few more examples. What about this name? Data 1 underscore. We can clearly see that there is an underscore at the end of this name. And as per the third rule, this is invalid. Now, what about this identifier name, which is starting with an underscore SUM? As per the third rule, there is no underscore at the end. So, is it valid? No, because it is clearly violating the second rule, which says the first character must be a letter. And here we can see that the first character is an underscore. So I hope you understand why these examples are invalid and these examples are valid. Let's see the fourth rule, which says two consecutive underscores are not allowed. Means two consecutive underscores are invalid. To understand this, let's take few examples. Here, the first name and underscore val underscore 1. Here we can see that there are two underscores. So, is this valid or not? It is valid because there are two underscores but not consecutive underscores. And as per the fourth rule, two consecutive underscores are not allowed. We can use two different underscores at different places. Therefore, this name and underscore val underscore 1 is a valid example. Now, what about this S underscore U underscore M? It is also a valid one because we can clearly see that there is no any consecutive underscores in this name. Let's see a few more examples to make it more clear. And underscore underscore val 1. It is clearly violating the fourth rule, which says two consecutive underscores, and here we can clearly see two consecutive underscores, which is invalid. And the last example, sum underscore underscore. We can clearly see two consecutive underscores. Therefore, this one is invalid. But it is also violating one another rule. Any idea? Yes, the third rule, which says the last character cannot be an underscore. And here we can see there are two consecutive underscores at the end. So I hope you understand the third rule, which says the last character cannot be an underscore, and the fourth rule, which says two consecutive underscores are not allowed. And I hope you understand why these examples are invalid and why these are valid. Let's see the fifth rule, which says VHDL reserved keywords are not allowed. Means VHDL reserved keywords cannot be used as an identifier name. because reserved keywords already have predefined meaning in VHDL. Let's understand this using few examples. So, we can use these names such as data and underscore gate my library as our identifier name. But we cannot use reserved keywords such as entity. Now, entity is a VHDL reserved keyword which is used for entity declaration, means to start an entity. This name and is a logic operator and also a reserved keyword. And instead of and, we can use and underscore gate. The last name, variable. Variable is also a reserved keyword which is used to declare variable. Now, not just these three, there are many other reserved keywords. Example, library, architecture, signal, XOR, NAND, etc. And we cannot use these VHDL reserved keywords because they have a predefined meaning. So I hope you understand why these examples are invalid as they are reserved keywords and these examples are valid. Let's see the last rule or the sixth rule, which says VHDL is not case sensitive. That is, VHDL is case insensitive, meaning all uppercase letters and lowercase letters are equal. Example, this name clock, all in lowercase. This name clock, all in uppercase. And this name clock, starting with an uppercase and ending with lowercase. All these names are same, since VHDL is case insensitive. So I hope you understand fifth and the sixth rule, where fifth rule says VHDL reserved keywords are not allowed, and the sixth rule says VHDL is not case sensitive, which means we are done with this topic of identifier naming rules. And I hope you understand how to write an identifier name using these 6 rules. So, we are done with this lecture. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.